Hello, everybody, and welcome to Precision Marketing Group's live webinar with Mansfield Sales Partners, the 5 biggest mistakes technology companies make in sales and marketing and how to fix them. My name is Oren Smith, Marketing Manager at PMG, and I just wanted to take a quick second to thank all of you for joining us today. We're very excited to be launching this webinar with Mansfield Sales Partners, and we hope you'll leave this session with some fresh insights and solutions for your own sales and marketing programs. I'll be your moderator for today's presentation. I'll be taking any and all of your questions that you may have for our expert speakers during the session. We'll be having a formal Q&A at the end of the presentation where we'll be able to answer your questions, and we do want to make sure you get everything out of this session that you came here for. So if you do have a comment or something you'd like to ask one of our presenters, simply submit it through the Q&A channel in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And you can do so anonymously if you so choose, for those of you who are a little bit more shy. And we'll do our best to give you an answer after the initial content of the presentation has been completed. And you can also expect to receive a link to the copy of the recording in your inboxes tomorrow. All right, now let's get right down to introducing today's presenters. Here I have with me one of Precision Marketing Group's managing partners, content marketing expert Maureen Condon, whose 25-year background in corporate communications, journalism, and industrial marketing served her well when crafting and implementing practical and results-driven outsourced marketing strategies and programs for PMG's clients. Also co-presenting today is the CEO of Mansfield Sales Partners, Greg Dunne, who has led global sales for high-tech companies for over 20 years, leading teams as they've introduced next-generation products into the marketplace. Mansfield focuses on providing a world-class outsourced sales force to help rapidly growing technology companies increase revenue, build their pipelines, penetrate new markets, and open up new territories. So for today's webinar, we'll begin by discussing some of the core characteristics that define today's technology market. And then Greg and Maureen will dive right into the meat of the presentation, offering their insights into the 5 most prominent mistakes that tech companies make all too often when marketing and selling their products and services. We'll follow that up with some tips and best practices for improving your sales and marketing alignment and fostering a more cohesive business strategy. And then we'll highlight the most concrete key takeaways you can apply to your own strategies. And then our remaining time will then be used to answer all of your pressing questions. All right, I'll hand the presentation right over to today's experts, Maureen and Greg. All yours, guys.
Thanks, Oren. So we're really excited to present this topic today. Greg at Mansfield and I and our team have been working together for years now, so we've worked in this space together as well as with many clients over the years. So we feel like we have some on-the-ground experience in this area and hopefully can share it in a valuable way with all of you today. Some of the things that we want to note as we dive into some of the mistakes that we see are some unique characteristics about the B2B technology space. I think everybody participating today understands that it's a crowded global marketplace. There's a lot of players. It can be very noisy space, and that solutions can be really complicated and require a lot of information and explanation. There are unique ways of selling in the technology space, mainly the direct sales approach, which companies all use, and using channel partners. And there's a lot of nuances and strategies that are necessary when working with channel partners, especially channel partners around the globe. So we'll speak to that unique characteristic. One of the things that's critical too in the technology space is that buying is a team sport. 61% of technology buying teams consist of 5 or more people doing research, and it's not just the C-suite that does the research. 93% of IT managers and IT staff members are involved in the research as either a decision maker, an influencer, or an implementer, someone who's going to actually be using the solutions. So really critical to understand the team approach in this space. The other thing is accelerating buying cycles, and there's a little caveat with that because when we see accelerated buying cycles, it can be an accelerated buying cycle if you do the right thing. In a noisy, crowded space, it is hard to stand out, so you won't be able to stand out without a really clear message. Buyers are doing a lot of independent research, and they're coming to the table very informed with really specific questions, and only the players who are really able to meet them where they are going to be able to accelerate the buying cycle. Greg, I don't know if you have anything to add or disagree with I just said or agree with about the space itself in general.
So Maureen, some of that is the marketing view of the world, accelerated buying cycles, thanks to the terrific job that marketing does providing information out into the marketplace.
Yes.
The salesman would challenge that by saying, well, buying cycles may be accelerated and in fact more informed. Decision process is slowed down because of the number of people that are generally involved globally in making these kinds of decisions. I was recently involved in a major software deployment with a large soft drink and foods manufacturer out down in Atlanta. We talked about going there and having a presentation and doing all kinds of things for this really bulky, kind of expensive enterprise software application. And the pushback that I got from the client was, well, you can come here and I'd be happy to meet with you. But, you know, Boston, Chicago, and Sally's in London, and, you know, and Stewart's in Los Angeles, and they're all involved in the process. So it wouldn't do you as much good to be able to be in front of us as maybe it would have in the past. And I think getting the buy-in from all those people, many of which you're not going to have an opportunity to meet, can result in a process that needs to be carefully managed.
Absolutely. That's a really good point about the members of the buying team being so just, you know, in different places and how to accomplish that, and that decision-making can slow down the more people that are involved, for sure. So some of the things that these characteristics can mean for you people who are doing marketing and sales is that it's more critical than ever to have a clear, compelling message that differentiates you, that cuts through the noise, that spells the value, and more importantly, that speaks to what your buyers care about. And we'll talk a little bit about that. It's also critical to have a variety of marketing content and a sufficient amount of marketing content for all the different types of buyers at all the different stages in the buying cycle. Speaking of direct sales efforts and channel partners, really important to have the channel partners be prepared and equipped to do the best job they can for you, to understand and have the right expectations for what your channel partners will and won't do for you, and how much you can expect from them. Understanding that it is a global marketplace and how that affects everything, whether it's that buyers are all in different locations, whether there's language issues that need to be taken into account, cultural things. And then the alignment, marketing and sales, has to work together. I think, Greg, you mentioned that there's a healthy tension between sales and marketing, and I think that's a great way to put it, is that marketing really looks to drive leads, and sales obviously wants to close business, and really making sure that these two groups are aligned is critical for success. So what we're going to do now is dive into the 5 common mistakes that we've outlined. We'll dive into them with a little bit of detail and give you our perspectives on them from the sales side and the marketing side, and recommend not a quick fix, but recommend an approach that can help you avoid these mistakes in your own sales and marketing efforts. So one of the mistakes we see, and I know this is a hot button for Greg and the people at Mansfield Sales, is seeing a lack of a clear go-to-market strategy. So Greg, talk a little bit about how often you see this mistake and the risk of this situation of not having a clear go-to-market strategy.
Well, it's a very common mistake that you see at the earlier stages of a company's evolution. In fact, it exists in the majority of cases where a bunch of really smart people get together, they decide to start a company, they create something wonderful that solves some pain point in the marketplace, and they decide to go out to people that they know inside of their networks, and they sell some of it. Because they're smart people and there's a pent-up demand and there's a reason that they created it. Then there comes an expectation that turns into a sustainable and scalable model for sales, and that's where things start to go badly wrong at times.
Right.
What needs to happen is a great deal of experimentation in the earlier stages of a company's life cycle to understand who makes the buying decisions. And I don't mean which vertical markets or which kinds of companies, or I'm talking about the people that exist inside these organizations. what are their personal goals? How will this help them get and achieve, the things that they aspire to achieve in their job and in their professional lives? And then how do you funnel the pain that they're feeling appropriately so that the products and services that you're providing to them fit neatly into place with what they're trying to accomplish in their personal and professional lives? That's a hard thing to do. It involves understanding different buyer personas inside of organizations and then creating the messaging that will allow you to very quickly and concisely articulate your message, which is different than the 100 other calls that they're getting each week or each month, so that you can differentiate yourself and distinguish yourself in that particular marketplace. So it's critically important that the go-to-market strategy be thoughtful, but also very, very diverse, so that when one thing doesn't work, which will surely be the case, you have a whole bunch of other things that you're trying in parallel so that you can crack the code and build something replicable.
Absolutely. So it's a dynamic, we often say the words, living, breathing thing, that it has to change. And I think you had told a story the other day about a company that really went to market with a security message, that we're all about security, and then had to shift gears.
Yeah, I mean, just anecdotally, one of my first gigs as a head of sales involved a security company with headquarters outside the U.S. And in that particular security company, it was a very rich technology, encryption type technology developed out of Cambridge University in the UK, and it was really designed all around making enterprises very, very secure and protecting data and protecting intellectual property. And it was ahead of its time, and we went to market and we started to talk to all the people who owned security about the wondrous things that this technology would provide to them in their efforts to secure the enterprise, back in the earlier days. After some amount of futility, we landed on the doorstep of an enlightened CIO at a major financial services organization who said, well, that security stuff is really great. Will it make my servers go fast? and we said, well, yeah, I mean, it does that. And the company ended up going public about 3.5 years later, based on the fact that the market understood what we did and allocated the pain to solving a different problem than what we originally thought we were going to be solving.
Yeah, I love that story, because it really just, hammers home the message that the clients are critical and you have to talk to the clients. A lot of decisions, we think we know best, when we're thinking about marketing and sales. We know what we do well, and we know why people should buy from us, but until you actually talk to clients and understand why they're buying from you, how they do their research. So I love hearing you use the word buyer persona, Greg. I think of that as such a marketing term, but it's so critical, not just the companies, but the individuals within the organization.
One of the other things that comes with this, though, Maureen, is the fact that the collection and analysis of the data becomes critically important. A mistake that's tied to this that we see very, very frequently is the replication of mistakes, where people go to particular markets with particular messages and they fail, but they're not correlating the data appropriately so that, 7 or 8 other people are trying the same message and also failing, and they're not pivoting quickly. And so the collection and interpretation of the data is also critically important.
Absolutely, and that's one really nice thing that we've seen in the marketing world and in the sales world, is that data is so readily available, that there's data for everything we do now. So not paying attention to it is definitely a risk that you take and can lead to many mistakes.